All right. How you doing, folks? Ron Raymond here, along with Ross Benjamin of RBWins.com for a Wednesday, November 4th. How you doing, Ross Benjamin?
I'm doing good, Ron. A little, we were talking off here, a little bit of weird feeling with almost, you can call it a full slate of college football on a Wednesday evening as the MAC opens their season with 6 games tonight.
Yeah, I draw the line at the MAC. That's the
Yeah.
yeah.
Hey,
No,
there's been some good pros that came out of the MAC. You know, Ben Roethlisberger, I don't know if a lot of people realize, he came from the MAC. He played at Miami of Ohio. How about Antonio Brown? I mean, he came from Central Michigan. So,
and what the head coach at Ohio Bobcats, Frank Solich, right?
Yeah, he was won a national championship in Nebraska.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, it's got some quality football there. It's just, unfortunately, it's not something when you throw it in on a Saturday card with all the Power 5 conferences, right? It's not games you really pay attention to a lot, but sometimes that's where you find the best value, Ron.
Yeah, and credit to the MAC conference for going on a Wednesday night and being the the only show in town type thing, right?
Yeah,
displaying their product and getting people to know the MAC. But no, you know what? It's football. We're gonna go through that today, Ross. We're gonna talk a bit about the NFL strength of schedule, the against the spread records of teams, and I thought we'd look a bit of line movements early from today. From Monday to now to see which line has gone where, and but let's get right into the MAC. Why not, eh?
Yeah.
What do you think, buddy?
Let's get her going.
Bitter patter, let's get at her. All right. We got Eastern Michigan taking on the Kent State Golden Flashes here tonight. Now, looking at the Raymond Report computer pick, we have a real tight one here. -4 is the line. The over-under at 66.5. We have Eastern Michigan 22.5, Kent State 22.2. So
you want to put the graphic up?
Oh yeah, there we go. A little hiccup on a Wednesday there.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's why I have a good teammate picking me up here. All right, here we go. Ta-da. So like I was saying, 22.5 to 22.2, the over-under at 44.75. So it does like it to go under the total. Now, hey, I'm sure these players are tired of practicing and tired of Zoom meetings. These guys are probably, they can't wait, chomping at the bit to get out there and hit somebody tonight.
Yeah, this should be a very competitive game, and the line indicates that, Ron. You know, Kent State finished the year very strong last year, winning their last 4, I think, including a bowl game. So this team is experienced on the offensive line, so they should be able to run the ball effectively. And, EMU lost a lot of their skilled position players, so that would be a concern of mine if you were going to back Eastern Michigan, is they're very experienced in that area. And Kent State's defense, very undersized, but yet very athletic. So should be an interesting matchup. I'm not willing to make a call in this game, especially with these teams having so much time off in their first game run. A lot of unknowns here.
Well, if we look at the beginning of the year, maybe the totals of teams going over, you probably see a lot of missed tackles, sloppy football, errors being made, a lot of penalties. Maybe the total, but the total here is 66.5. So maybe the bookmakers have already adjusted to the total in that respect. But you know what? Those are the things that come to mind. And the thing I'm looking to, Ross, is teams that have a reputation of a winning program. Are they going to be overvalued? And are we going to get any type of overreaction from the public on those type of teams? Teams like Buffalo, teams like Toledo, right? Teams that have a good history in the MAC of doing well. Second game on the board, we got the Buffalo Bulls taking on the Northern Illinois Huskies. And the Bulls here are 14-point favorite. The over-under at 52.5. Ross, we have the Bulls winning this one here, 27 to 20.5. The over-under at 47.5. So about 5 points under the total here. Hey, isn't this where there was in Buffalo? What's that coach that they went to Houston? Turner Gill, right? Was it Turner Gill? Yeah.
He went to Nebraska actually, or Turner Gill went. Yeah, he went to a Power 5 conference team. He didn't last very long.
But. No, great coach, but he was there. That's why I remember. But you know what, Buffalo coming off a pretty good season last year, if I recall, or was it the year before? I don't know. But they're playing the Huskies here today, and we got them the 14-point favorite. Is this an overreaction from the bookmakers here?
I don't know. I mean, I saw an opening line from a while ago at 9, so they've definitely adjusted this line. According to everything I'm looking at, Ron, UB should be one of the favorites, if not the favorite, to win the MAC. Very experienced at the offensive skill positions, Ron. This Patterson kid at running back could be playing on Sunday when he's done with his college football career. And UB might have one of the best defenses as well in the MAC. So I think this is a pretty honest line. It's just a heavy number to lay, not knowing a lot about Northern Illinois at this point. Are they a good value as a double-digit home underdog? I don't think the books are that generous. I think this line says everything, that they feel that Buffalo is a much superior team. If this game was at home, the Bulls will be somewhere around a 20-point favorite. So keep that in mind. I know Northern Illinois, Ron, has that reputation in the MAC of being very successful. So, this line really smells like a rat to me. They're inviting you to take the home underdog here.
Yeah, I'm just bringing up the Raymond Report from our premium section here, which people can get each and every day if they visit our website. We also have a free Raymond Report. And looking at Buffalo last year, Ross, they finished with a 5-3 record in the conference. They were 8-5 overall, and they were 5-1 at home. But now they're on the road. They were 2-4 on the road last year. And just looking at the history between these two teams, so when Buffalo goes to Northern Illinois, check this out: 0-5 straight up, 1-4 against the number, and overall in the last 9 meetings or 10 meetings here. 6-3-1 against the number, 2-7-1 to the under. So a lot of history here pointing towards the under between these two teams. Last time they met last year, or it was 2 years ago, or 3 years ago.
2 years ago in the MAC championship game, which the computer, for whatever reason, doesn't recognize postseason games. But Buffalo, Northern Illinois upset Buffalo in that MAC 2018 MAC title game. 30-28, Ron. So it's not like they haven't played recently. Let's put it this way, during the regular season.
Yeah. So again, with the history, I think the under and looking at the total 47.5, maybe the under is worth a consideration tonight. Again, I don't like betting, especially the conferences that you don't follow religiously, and in the first game of the year, not knowing the quarterback position in the college game is such an important factor. Just look at Kansas State this weekend and West Virginia, right? That really hurt Kansas State. All right, let's take a look at another game here, Ross. We're gonna go at Ball State taking on Miami, Ohio, and looking at the line on this game, -1.5. I think this is the line that's the closest on the board this evening. Over under at 55.5. You got the Cardinals winning here, a close one, 30.67 to 29.4. The over-under landing on 60.13. Man, the looks like a lot of points going to be scored in this one this evening.
Yeah, well, Ball State last year, Ron, they were number 1 in scoring and number 1 in total offense in the MAC. On the other side of the equation, Miami of Ohio was 122nd nationally in total offense. So one team has a lot of success offensively last year. The other team anemic. How will each do going into this year remains unknown. But the better defensive team in this matchup should be Miami of Ohio, and Ball State should have a decided advantage on the offensive side, Ron. So it's going to be a clash of who. If Ball State's defense and Miami of Ohio's offense, whoever's more effective, that's the weak part of their game, is going to be the winner in this game, in my opinion. So again, this sets up, like you said, Ron, is a very competitive, should be a close game kind of matchup.
Yeah, looking at last year's game at Ball State, it was a 41-27 win for Ball State. And looking at the last few games between these two teams, Ross, right here, look at this: 5-5 straight up, 6-4 against the spread, favoring Miami, Ohio, and the under is 3-7-0 to the under. And when Ball State travels to Miami, 1-4-2 in their last
under,
under. So a lot of under numbers here that I'm seeing, between the history of these two teams. And I'm just trying to see if there's anything in the Raymond Report trend section, if there's anything that really stands out. The only thing that in the trend section you can look at, and this column here, it's when any team this year or last 3 years. So anytime you see like an O for over, so during week 10, the last 3 years, the home team, look at this, 132, 65, and 3 to the over for home teams during week 10. But this is week 1 for these guys.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah. And then
I mean, I would, again, the computer's been red hot, right? So look at they're right on though. I mean, Ball State, they got Ball State as probably a 1.5 point favorite, and right now Miami's at -2. That just shows you how competitive this. I trust the computer at this point. When you're knocking out 69% ATS winners for the year, it's not a fluke anymore.
No, exactly. All right, Ohio Bobcats taking on the Chippewas of Central Michigan. The Bobcats led by Frank Solich, old coach from Nebraska as well. -3 is the line here on the Bobcats, a road favorite, over under at 55.5. Sees a blowout here, Ross, 41.5 to 15.2, over under at 56.7. So a hair over the total of the posted total tonight. Looking at the history between these two teams, overall in their last 10 games, Central Michigan really having the dominance here. 8-2 straight up, 7-3 against the number. And again, another under, 3-6-1 to the under. And, we talked about earlier here with these teams playing their first game. The total is really a tough read here. Just ask BYU and Navy that first game, right?
Yeah, absolutely. All I got for you here, Ron, Ohio, the bad news is they lost their quarterback, Tanner Rourke, 3-year starter, I believe. He graduated. But the good news is they returned just about all of their skilled position players offensively. Ohio also returns 8 of their top 10 tacklers from a season ago, Ron. Say that twice in a row.
Tongue twister there.
Yeah, exactly. Easy for you to say. But anyway, that's what I got here. I also have marked down this should be a competitive game, but the computer's got it as a blowout. It wouldn't shock me if that happens based on Ohio's returning experience. And Frank Solich has quietly built a very strong MAC program in Ohio since he's been there, Ron.
Yeah. Kelvin Johnson, one of our guys here. Good morning, Kelvin. He says, good morning, guys. MAC action tonight. Defense are sleeping, like some overs tonight. Yeah, that's what we've been saying. Also, Kelvin, we think there should be a lot of overs tonight. Elliot V, sup, boys? How you doing, Elliot? Good morning. So just looking at some more of these numbers here for Central Michigan and 1-5 on a Wednesday. Oh yeah, Wednesday. Keep in mind a lot of teams don't play a lot of Wednesday games. These teams do. So Ohio, last 3 years on a Wednesday night, 1-5 against the numbers, and it's a bit important, Ross, because you're out of your norm of your weekend games, right? You're on a couple of days rest maybe. You probably didn't hit in the last couple of days, and the O line's banged up, and then you're right at it on Hump Day, playing on a Wednesday night on national TV.
Yeah, it's an excellent opportunity for the MAC to get some exposure, right, Ron? I mean, you're getting a lot of ESPN, ESPN2, ESPNU coverage on the MAC during the midweek, and it's a great recruiting tool. You would know that as a former coach as well.
Oh, absolutely. All right, let's take a look at the next game here. We got Bowling Green against Toledo. Looking at the record here for Toledo, a little bit of an off year last year. 3-5 in the conference, 6-6 overall. And then for the Bowling Green, the Falcons here, Bowling Green 2-6 last year in the conference, 3-9. So not really a good year. Going in tonight, look at this, a 23.5 point home favorite for the Rockets. The over-under is 62.5. Computer all over Toledo here, 45.07, 20.75. The over-under at 65.8. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at a Toledo team that's going to be playing with big-time revenge, Ron. Last year, Bowling Green knocked them off 20-7 as a home underdog of 27 points. So keep that in mind. I do have a 5-star winning total on this game tonight, actually, Ron, that I part of my subscription package at ATSStats.com. Also, will be selling this game individually at my website, rbwins.com. That's $35 for the contest. Winning total between Bowling Green and Toledo.
Okay, great. And folks, you can get that at our website or rbwins.com. And what I'm doing now, Ross, is I'm going to bring this over here. I'm going to look at the last 10 games between these two teams, Bowling Green, home or away. And here I'll do when Bowling Green, the last 10 at Toledo, and 3-6-1, 1-9, 5-4. So, and then when the overall, let me see here, go get it. 6-4 against the number, 5-5, and 3-6-1 to the under. And let me check just one last thing as an underdog. What the situation is, same thing. So really nothing to write home about here. But again, folks, if you're interested in Ross top play for the MAC tonight, he's got one in our members area. And we'll look at the last time these two teams played was last year on October 12th, 20-7 win here for Bowling Green.
27-point underdog in that game.
Yeah. Hey, who knows if there's a repeat here tonight. And just taking a quick look here at some of the stats and trends. Again, once these teams get a few games under their belt, we have more to chew on. Anytime you go into a new season, even the coaches really don't know what they're getting themselves into, right?
Well, especially in this environment, right, Ron? Where we're COVID-19, where the kids have been put on the back burner now for the last 3 months, thinking they were going to start in September. Here it is, November the 4th. And we're playing the opening game in the conference.
Yeah, exactly. November 4th. Wow.
Yeah,
I think we missed this one here. Western Michigan, the Broncos taking on Akron Zip. Looking at the record for Western Michigan last year, 5-3, 7-6 in the overall, and for Akron, not a good year. 0-12. Yeah,
not only were they 0-12, Ron, they were 0-12 against the spread as well. So if you faded Akron all year long, you made a hell of a lot of money.
And that's tough to do, right? Just, and we'll get to that in a few minutes with regards to the Dallas Cowboys. Anytime you go over, that's tough to do. 20 is the spread here, Ross, for the Broncos, -20 on the road. The over-under at 54.5. We got the Broncos winning tonight, 36.5 to 16.12. So right there on the number, man, or no, actually 16th. Yeah, right there on the number 20, and the total at 54.5 and 52.7. So again, another low total here between these two teams.
Well, Akron was the last in the nation last year in scoring offense. So, take that into account going into tonight.
Yeah. And looking at the history of when, let me see here, when Western Michigan goes to Akron, they are 4-1 straight up, 4-1 against the number in their last 5, 1-2-2, a couple of pushes. You don't see that too often. So 14-13 game last year, man. 2017. Sorry, 2017. Yeah. I was going to say, geez, well, that's not a bad score.
But well, it'd be hard to do when you're 0-12 last year. You know what I mean? So
yeah, exactly.
It better be 2017.
All right, Ross, we're going to shift our attention now to the National Football League. I'm just going to check, see if there's any.
From the MAC to the NFL. Yeah. Talk about a big transition, right?
Yeah. How do you do a smooth transition to that, right? Ghana, living in America. Good morning, Ghana. Hopefully you're having a good morning. All right, let's take a look at the. So what I did, Ross, is I went into the database and I went and see all the records straight up, over, under, against the spread. And also at the top here, it gives us the divisions. So in the AFC East division, now we have a 12-18-0 for the AFC East against the spread, 18-9-3 AFC North. So AFC North have one of the best records, along with the NFC West. NFC South, not so much, 13-7-1. 17-12 for the NFC North. NFC East, obviously, not a good one at 11-20, and they're 8-22-1. Straight up in the division.
Yeah, I'd like to see them outside of the division, how they do, because you know what I'm saying? I would almost venture to say off the top of my head that their ATS record against non-division foes has got to be even worse.
Yeah, no, we can do that. I can check that in a minute. Looking at the straight up record of each divisions, NFC West have the best division,
Yeah.
20-10. The obviously NFC East has the lowest. Buffalo right there with the AFC, or actually no, 12-18, and that's because of the Jets and Patriots and not having a good year. AFC North, you got Baltimore and Pittsburgh up there, Cleveland. So they've done very well. The South, man, 12-16. So, just looking at the sometimes I like to look at the divisions.
Yeah, I mean, at one point I thought it's possible because there's 3 wild card teams this year, Ron. In each conference,
okay,
as opposed to normally 2. I thought that possibly, and it still might happen, that all 3 teams, all 4 teams in the NFC West can make the playoffs. But then San Francisco got decimated with injuries. And, you mentioned how strong that division is straight up. San Francisco's in last place with a 4-4 record. That just shows you how strong that division is.
Yeah. No, and you got Seattle, Arizona's doing well.
Right.
So, you got to.
The Rams aren't no pushover at 5-3, so.
And you know what? Now that you said that, you know what? I'll just off the top of my head, I'm just going to bring up the standings here. AFC West. Look at all the head coaches in that division. You got Pete Carroll. You got Kingsbury.
All right.
Oh, hang on here.
Raymond here, along with Ross Benjamin.
Where's that coming from?
For a Wednesday.
Oh.
I don't know.
A guest appearance by Ron Raymond.
Promo from another show.
Yeah, McVay, and you got Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco. So, you look at all the coaches in each division. Maybe you're not surprised.
Some good young coaches in that division, right, Ron?
Absolutely. And then you got Pete Carroll, right? Who's just
the old savvy veteran. But Kingsbury, Shanahan, and who's the other one off the top? McVay. I mean, all young, really good young coaches.
Yeah, so that's that's something that came to my mind looking at that, and some good young quarterbacks too, right? Kyler Murray.
Yep.
Obviously you got Russell Wilson. Garoppolo is injured now, and Jared Goff. That Jared Goff it can be hit and miss, right?
Yeah.
It's just you wake up one day, it's like, oh, what a great quarterback. The other day, it's like, man, never gonna take that guy again in fantasy or something.
I mean, he looks so good at one week, and then the next week he lays an egg like he did at Miami last week.
Yeah. Taking a look at all the teams here, Ross, New England, 2-5 straight up, 3-4 against the number. Miami, look at this, 4-3, but 5-2 against the number. And when I look at this, I'm thinking, okay, Miami, and this is where we go into our uncomfortable teams now, like of picks, right? Miami, all they do is keep winning. A great head coach, I wouldn't say great, good head coach right now. He could be great in a couple of years. But you've been on Miami as a sleeper, and sure enough.
I wrote an article on them earlier this year, picked them to go over 7.5 wins. Also warned the readers that they might be a good team to play in the first half of the season. They might be a bit undervalued. And Ron, they're 5-2 against the spread, but they failed to cover in their season opener against New England. So the last 6 games, they're 5-1 against the spread.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And look at this, 2-5 to the under. And you want to win championships, you need good defense, right?
Absolutely.
So Buffalo, bit of the opposite of Miami, right? The defense is the issue in Buffalo. The offense can get some points and move the ball, but only 3-5 against the number, but 6-2 to the over. So maybe I'm going to see if there's any correlation between the ATS winners and losers compared to the over-unders to see if there's anything that really stands out here.
Yeah, it's almost like a contrarian thought process where usually you see the ATS winner, you equate it with an over, right, Ron? But if you look at Buffalo and Miami's ATS records compared to their over-under record, it's the exact opposite. You know what I mean? I would be curious. You're right. I would be curious to what you find when you look at ATS winners and how they do against the total too.
And remember my rule of thumb: if you like, favorites, take overs. If you like unders, take underdogs. Right? And Miami's been an underdog most of the season.
Right. And Buffalo's been a favorite in seven of their first 8 games, or 7 of their first 8. They were a favorite at Tennessee. The only underdog situation they had was against Kansas City. So yeah, goes hand in hand to what you've been preaching.
Yeah. The New York Jets 0-8, 1-7, but 3-5 to the number. Baltimore 5-2, 4-3, and 4-3 to the over. Cincinnati. Now look at this.
It's another team.
Yeah. Remember we talked about this yesterday. I said the Cincinnati kid, he doesn't win games, but he covers the spread. He's the new Teddy Covers, right?
Yeah.
He's
exactly.
the new Teddy Bridgewater. We'll have to think of a new name, Joe Covers or something.
Yeah, the only game that they were really out of was the Baltimore game. Look at the rest of their scores, Ron. I mean, they either won, tied, or lost by a slim margin.
Yeah, no, they're a team on the rise, right? And 5-3 to the over.
And they'll continue to be. You're going to continue to catch them at underdog prices too, Ron, going forward. So keep an eye on that.
And you know what? And that's exactly it. At what point, and for that reason, I've been jumping off them, because I said, this can't last forever. And this is where the public confidence of teams like Cincinnati, it's going to be a love-hate relationship going the rest of the year, because you're going to see these big matchups, and eventually they're going to play a road game here, and you're going to say, okay, do I go against them this week, or do I go with them this week? And you just know the week you go with them, they're going to lose, right? It's just
again, I mean, it depends on the situation, right? I mean, I had them last week against Tennessee. I thought that was more so a vulnerable spot for Tennessee than I was giving Cincinnati credit for, right? So, again, you're right, Ron. You know it levels off at some point, and when you start to see them move as an underdog of less than 3, or pick them, or a small favorite, might be a good time to fade them at that point, because the odds makers adjusting.
Yeah, and we'll get to Tennessee in a minute. Pittsburgh 7-0, 6-1 against the number, 4-3-0. Good teams, good teams find a way to always win and cover. For some reason, when you look at past history of teams, like going back, the last 2-3 years, you go look at teams that normally have like good teams and good records normally have a good point spread record as well.
I got a pretty good total stat on the Steelers as an away favorite, Ron. If you want to keep the audience entertained until I find it. Just give me a second.
Yeah, no problem. Pittsburgh this year, looking at their games against the Giants, 26-16, 4-3 to the over. So that to me was, balance. And that's one thing I'm always looking for when I'm handicapping games. I'm looking for the balance. And a good example is Seattle. There's no balance on that team. It's all offense, and the defense is very questionable. But looking at the other games, Cleveland 5-3, 3-4-1 against the spread, 5-3 to the over. The Colts 5-2, 4-3-0, and then 4-3-0 to the over. So the Colts, here's another team I find another love-hate relationship with Phillip Rivers at quarterback, right? It seems they can always beat the beatables, but they struggle against the good teams. I look at that game against Cincinnati, Indianapolis, the 31-27, they're an 8-point favorite.
Yeah, and they were losing that game 21-0 at one point. So
yeah, exactly.
They had to overcome a big deficit there.
Yeah.
That Pittsburgh, I'm going to have to go over that with the viewers and listeners on Friday when we do the NFL show, but I have a 15-0 under angle that has to do with Pittsburgh being an away favorite.
Okay. Tennessee. Here's my issue with Tennessee. I think we give them too much respect.
Yep.
They're a good football team.
I agree, Ron. I agree.
I think they made the playoffs last year. They got Derrick Henry, a good run team. Vrabel's a good coach, but it just, you look at their wins. They're close wins. There's not, and Cincinnati, if you look at all the scores this year, 31-20, 11-point loss, a 3-point win here. This game here, that was an overtime game against Houston. Okay, the Bills, they beat the Bills handily on a Tuesday night.
Yeah, but I mean, look how they scored the 42 points in that game. You look at their total yards, Ron, and it doesn't equate to a 42-point production. Had a lot to do with turnovers and a long special team. Buffalo gave them the ball inside the 30-yard line of Buffalo 4 times in that game. So they had 4 touchdown drives of less than 30 yards. Anyway, Go ahead, Ron.
3-point win against Jacksonville, and then a 2-point against Denver at Denver, right? So, and whenever you get a team like Tennessee that is a running team, then you start you put 2 and 2 together. It's like, man, these
Great
guys
point.
get behind. Yeah, they get behind. And if you got a cover like this weekend, and I knew this weekend against Cincinnati we were screwed because you've mentioned a few times here, they don't have the passing game to really come back and get you those backdoor covers like a Philadelphia did against Baltimore a couple of weeks ago.
Right. And the thing is, look at everybody's praising Ryan Tannehill for having a great year, and since he's taken over the quarterback, the Titans have been a more dynamic offense. I get that. But if you look at the games in which Tennessee fell behind, look at the Cincinnati game last week. Cincinnati is not a great defense by any stretch of the imagination, yet they got behind by more than 1 possession in the second half, and you can no longer just rely on Derrick Henry getting chunks of yards, which opens up your play-action passing game and keeps opposing defenses off balance. They had to become one-dimensional, Ron. And my question about Tennessee is 2 things. Number one, can Ryan Tannehill bring the Titans back from a more than 1 possession deficit in the second half? Because now you become pass happy, and could you solely depend on him to get you back in the game with his arm? So far, the answer to me has been no. Okay. And secondly, everybody keeps overlooking the Titans' defensive numbers, Ron. They're not very good. They're giving up around 400 yards a game and somewhere around 26 points a game, which could be a lot worse if not for the fact that they forced 12 turnovers so far. So 2 things to really that stick out to me when evaluating the Titans that goes hand in hand with you not being sold on them as well.
Yeah, no, it just that passing game. They're really gonna have to. And who's it was AJ Brown.
AJ Brown, he's done well.
Yeah,
I mean,
he
you
has.
got to give him credit, So
yeah,
but again, it's not Pittsburgh's passing game,
No. And
so
good defense coordinators are gonna take that away from them. Down and distance. I always say, what's the down and distance? And then the DC's job is to, okay, who's their, if it's a running down, okay, they're going to load up the box. If it's a passing down, who's their top guy? Put that safety over top of him, right? So that's the issue that Tennessee's having right now. And if you have Tennessee like I did on the weekend, you knew your ticket was burnt and done when they were falling behind.
Sure.
Yeah. Jacksonville taking on 1-6 on the year, 2-5 against the number, 4-3. If you're betting Jacksonville, you're either betting against them or you're looking at the total, right?
Yeah. At some point they'll keep adjusting. I mean, look at this week. I mean, they're a 7-point home underdog, Ron, 6.5-point home underdog against a Houston team that's 1-6. So to me, that speaks volumes. I always trust the odds makers. And remember, this is a Jacksonville team that won 1 game this year. It was their season opener against Indy, and they were outgained by over 200 yards in that contest. So they were quite lucky to come away with a win there. And since that time, they've gone 0-6 and I believe 1-5 against the spread. So just something to keep in mind when you take a look at this game and say, wow, Houston's almost a touchdown road favorite against a Jacksonville team that has lost 6 in a row. Well, the bottom line is Houston has actually played a tough schedule, Ron, to this point. Your SOS comes into play on that.
Yeah, and we'll look at that in a second. 6 and I'm seeing 7 this weekend, Ross. For Jacksonville. Houston 1-6, another tough. They've had one of the toughest strength of schedule. Man, they can't buy a break. 1-6 on the year. Coaching issue to get rid of her top player. Man, it's almost a mess right now.
Yeah, you got to love these teams around the reward defensive coordinators with the head coaching job when their defense ranked near the bottom of the league, not only last year, but up until this point this year. Romeo Crennel, I'm referring to. There's another case. Who else got fired this year? Dan Quinn, and they bring in the defensive coordinator to take over there. Atlanta's defensive numbers have been horrible this year. So I guess your ticket to getting an interim job and a shot at getting and a whole head coaching job is, Ron, I think he should apply to become a defensive coordinator and, give up about 35 points a game, get the head coach fired, and then you're next in line to get the job.
Yeah, I'll have to go to a few more coaches clinic and go to some defensive meetings to put that. I'm an offensive guy, so
yeah.
The Chiefs 7-1, 6-2, and this one I'm saying good teams that you can trust normally have good point spread records, right?
Yeah,
7-1, 6-2, 3-5.
Look at that. That's you would think Kansas City would be an over team. Much improved defensively. And 5-3 it is to the under. Yes.
Yeah, great point. And that's and this is where perception versus reality comes in, right? You think of Kansas City, you think of Mahomes, you think of that firepower on offense, but look at that, 3-5 to the under.
And look at the other thing, Ron. Look at what happens after they go over in the game this year. 3 overs this year. The following game, all go under.
Yeah.
So something to take a look at going forward. Yeah,
great observation on your part. Denver 3-4, 4-3, and then 4-3. So very balanced here. And when I see something like this, and to me, it's good and it's bad. It's good because the bookmaker sees that too. So you're both on the same playing field in that respect. But but the bad is you got to find the right side that game with that week.
Yeah, I mean, look at the competition they played too. Which makes that 3-4 straight up record look to me like they're better than a 3-4 team. I mean, they lose to Tennessee, who's currently, I believe, 5-2. They lose to Tampa Bay, who's 6-2 right now. They lose to Kansas City, who's 7-1, and the Chargers. They're 3-5, but they very easily, if you look at all 5 of the Chargers' losses, they've been by 7 or less. So. You might get some good value with Denver, especially as a home underdog, Ron. Not against the caliber of a team like a Kansas City, but more so like what we saw last week against the Chargers. You know what I mean? Well, they were a 3-point home underdog.
You make a good point. And how many times throughout the year that, we're at the midway mark now, right? We're almost to week 8. And you see it in past previous years, teams at the midway mark, it's the tipping point. Some teams go on a run and some teams just start tanking. Yeah. And maybe that's a show we look next week on teams that we think they'll make a run and teams that we think that will just struggle.
Yep.
Vegas 3-4, 4-3 straight up and against the spread, but 6-1 against the number. Obviously, it's the defense.
6-1 to the over. They're 4-3
over.
Yeah, 4-3 on the ATS and straight up.
Yeah. LA Chargers, we talked about that, 2-5 and 3.
I want to just, if I can, again, take a look at the Raiders' schedule. Who they faced so far this year. Their strength of schedule. People wondered why they went all the way down to a 1-point underdog at a Cleveland team that was 5-2 at the time. Well, look who they played: Tampa Bay, Kansas City, Buffalo, New England, who's not having a down year, but the other 2 games, New Orleans, and a Carolina team that's probably a better than who they played at the time with Christian McCaffrey at running back. So they played a real strong schedule, Ron.
Yeah, and then here's another point. They played New England week 3.
Yeah,
we didn't know what New England's going to be like. Week 8. Now we know what they're about. Week 3, we just saw Belichick and we saw Cam Newton. Being Cam Newton in the first couple of weeks. So, we don't know that going into week 3,
and remember
right?
that New England game too, Ron, they were coming off a national TV upset win against New Orleans.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, good point. All right. Chargers 3-2, 2-5, and 4-3. Again, you mentioned it, the missed luck that they're having, just trying to.
Yeah, look at their losses, Ron. Take a look at their losses.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Where is it here? Straight up. So the Chiefs, Carolina, Tampa
The margin
Bay,
of victory is
yeah,
the margin of the losses. Look at
7. So
yeah.
7-5, 3, and then 3. There were, and these are all games they're leading. This
Yeah.
game here I talked about yesterday is a game they wanted to give away.
Yeah,
They
exactly. They
know,
blew a 17-0 lead at that game.
yeah, I remember because I had the Chargers that game, and I was
Yeah.
just like, what did they do?
Last week they blew a 24-3 lead.
Yeah, and 31-30 right here, a 1 point.
So all 5 losses by 7 points or fewer, Ron.
Yeah, and yesterday that exercise I brought onto the show. Teams that you look at final scores this year, you're sweating 67% of the games this year because it's
with
just the way it is.
With teams like the Chargers, the Lions, and the Falcons, no lead is safe.
No. Yeah, exactly. And then you got the Eagles. Oh God, here we go with the NFC East.
Least.
Yeah.
NFC least, Ron.
Misery loves company. Here we go. Eagles 3-4-1, 3-5 against the number, 4-3-1 favoring the over. Looking at the Eagles this year, it's I don't know. Where do you start?
I mean, the problem is they're banged up on both sides of the ball. They're going to end up probably winning this division, and if they do, it'll be by default. So I don't know. It's since winning that Super Bowl, the last time they won the Super Bowl a few years back, Carson Wentz really has been up and down, and it goes hand in hand with the team. He has been able to stay healthy, which is a surprise over the last 2 years, but his play reflects the team itself. He's either very good or you wonder if that's the same guy you saw last week kind of thing. And it's the same thing with the Eagles, right, Ron? They're so unpredictable.
You know what? One thing I noticed that anytime we talked about the Eagles, we never say anything about Peterson. It's always Wentz, the defense, or
exactly.
the lack of receivers. Peterson is getting a free ride in my view. He's good offensive coach, good mind coach. But do we point the finger at him a little bit or take some responsibility?
Yeah, I mean, at some point the head coach has to be accountable, right? I mean, you can give him a pass because they've lost some key personnel this year on both sides of the ball via injury, whether it be for the year or out for a length of time. I mean, you look at Alshon Jeffrey's I think he played maybe 2 games this year, if that. And then you look at the teams they beat, the Giants and the Cowboys. The last 2 games, they win against both of those teams. They're a combined, if I'm not mistaken, 3-13, I think. So who have they beaten? They tied against Cincinnati. Any quality team they've faced, they lost to the Redskins.
They beat the Niners, though.
They did beat the Niners, but that was a Niners team again. It was without Jimmy Garoppolo at the time. So the verdict is out on Philadelphia. I just don't think they're that good, Ron. Yeah. I think that it's one of those situations where there's enough talent there, but are they a cohesive unit? You know what I'm saying? So sometimes talent doesn't always win out. There's a lot of teams that are less talented, but a better team.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Like people don't understand it's one of the things we do talk about it, the chemistry on teams. Right. And some teams, if the chemistry goes south and the team goes south, and it's one of the hardest things to do in this day and age of sports is keeping, especially in professional sports. I remember Breezy telling me all the time, professional sports, the players, they don't care. They do care about the team, but it's about a contract because you could be here one day and you're out the next day, and it's the business. It's absolute business for these guys sometimes. And, we look at it as fans, but these guys, they look at, sometimes you hear them whine about their numbers. It's because they're playing for a contract. And if they're not getting the looks or the targets, it helps their business profile in the marketplace.
Yeah. Well, look at, again, I know it's a team that we follow, but look at the culture that Sean McDermott has created in Buffalo. And to me, he won 10 games last year with that team. If you look at that team on paper last year, they're not a 10-win team. How about 2 years before that when they went 9-7 and qualified for the playoffs? I mean, culture is is hard to create. Good culture, that is, Ron, inside an NFL locker room for the very reasons you just alluded to.
Yeah, and you heard it on Monday Night Football. The guys in the booth who've done a very good job talked about. I think it was Greasy talking about the receiving core of Tampa Bay when they were all asked about Antonio Brown joining. They said, you know what? If he comes in and makes us better and doesn't whine about his touches, then we'll openly accept him. And that's what and that's what you want to hear as a coach, right? But you can't have somebody come in and disrupt and start whining, like week 8.
Well, you know what? Okay, keep this in mind too. Tom Brady, whether they want to say it or not, went to bat for Antonio Brown in this situation because all indications were that Bruce Arians didn't want him. He had him in Pittsburgh, if you recall.
Yeah,
he was the offensive coordinator there, and his comments were along the lines of he creates too much distraction, for what it's worth. I think Tom Brady's pretty much assured Arians he's not going to pull that baloney here because Tom Brady will take the bull by the horns, And so, look, if the guy doesn't learn and know you're not a wanted commodity right now, we love your talent, but you better behave. And he's been without a paycheck for 2 years in the NFL now, Ron. It better be a wake-up call.
And you're right. I remember Bruce Arians saying, we don't want him. Yeah. And now all of a sudden he flip-flop, and now But when you winning masks a lot, and it puts a Band-Aid on a lot of things. And when you win, everything tastes like like ice cream and cake. But as soon as you start losing, it can go south in a hurry.
Yeah, right. And you got to back him up with that move too, because Mike Evans has been playing hurt all year long. One of the top receivers in football, especially in the red zone. And now you got Chris Godwin out with a broken finger for a few weeks.
Wow. All right, Dallas Cowboys 2-6, 0-8, 4-4. We all know the quarterback situation. Dallas. I don't know. Again, now week 8 or week 9. Obviously, who knows where it's going to go? I'd have to look at their schedule. But hey, you got to give them credit. This past Sunday night, they were competitive for 3 quarters. But then the wheels fell off, right?
I got to make a note to myself to check when was the last time a team failed to cover in the NFL their first 8 games. You know what I mean? That's got to be pretty unique. I don't know if that's ever happened, but if it has, I can't believe it's happened many times, Ron.
Yeah, I'll have to look on my database. I do have it on my database, opponents, the first 0-8, and I'll look at that in a few minutes. Yeah. Washington, 2-5 straight up, 3-4 against the number, 3-4. A little bit, a mystery, this Washington team, right?
Yeah.
Not as much as Miami, but this Washington team, I've looked at some of their games and they're pretty competitive. Week 1, 27-17. All right. Arizona 30-15, 34-20 against Cleveland, 37-17. But look at the numbers they've had, right? Some big numbers, touchdown, 13-7, 30-10 against the Rams, 2019. So, win last week against the Cowboys, but that's,
all 3 of their wins, Ron, all 3 of their wins have come within the division. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So they're winning their division games, and somebody's got to win that division in all. Yeah, 2 wins. No, they only have 2 wins. Is that right? 2-5. Yeah. So their 2 wins have come within the division. They lost to the Giants in that one game, 20-19, but yeah, they got to start showing me they can be competitive outside the division, Ron. I look at Arizona, they lost by 14. The Browns, they lost by 14. Baltimore, they lost by 14. And the Rams, they lost by 20. And the other 3 games are against the division. So until they could show me they could be more competitive outside the division, they're not too hard of a team for me to figure out right now.
Yeah. All right, let me see here.
With no disrespect intended, my man.
No, it's all good. Giants 1-7 straight up, 5-3 against the number, 3-5. There's 1-7 teams that I won't even look at the number against the spread, but the Giants, I will give them a look. We do it all the time, right, Ross?
Yeah.
We'll handicap a game, and I see a team that's 0-7, 0-8, 1-7. I won't even consider them against the spread. I'll just load another game. But the Giants are one of those teams that I'll give them that respect because look at the numbers, 5-3 against the number.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, look at their last 4 games. They've all been decided by 3 points or less.
Yeah.
Right there. And then the game before that 4-game stretch, they lose at the Rams 17-9. So, I mean, they've been very competitive. And the big thing is I think they've surprised a lot of people defensively. They're not a great defensive team, Ron, but they're middle of the road. And sometimes that'll go a long way when you're an underdog, when your defense is playing respectable football. If they can only get Daniel Jones to stop turning the ball over, they'd be much better than the 1-7 record they have right now.
Yeah. Packers 5-2 straight up and against the spread, 4-3. Those 2 losses, one to Minnesota where they absolutely destroyed them in week 1. That game wasn't even close. I don't think
they got crushed by Tampa Bay.
Yeah. So, again, this Green Bay Packer team, are they going to do like last year? And they just got to stay healthy, I think.
Yeah. And you look at, again, they've been beneficiaries of a real weak schedule, Ron. Look who they've played.
Yeah.
Minnesota, even though Minnesota was 1-5 going into that game last week. Detroit, who's 3-5. New Orleans, as we've alluded to on several times, they're not that good, even though they're 5-2. The Atlanta Falcons, Tampa Bay is definitely an elite team, and then you got Houston, who's 1-7 right now, or 1-6, whatever. So I think I'm going to be looking to fade Green Bay going forward when they play quality teams in their schedule.
Yeah, that's a good angle. Minnesota 2-5, 4-3 against the number, 5-2 to the over. A little bit surprising. When you look at, let me see the unders here. 28-11 and 27-26. So
yeah, I mean, remember, Ron, this is a team that lost a lot of their defense from a season ago. This is definitely, since Mike Zimmer took over in 2014, his worst defensive team on paper. And it showed in the scores, and that's why I think you're seeing the 5-2 over the total.
Yeah,
is they were basing a lot of the early totals on how well they played defensively in recent seasons.
Yeah, that's a good point. One thing I should have checked from the beginning. Our head coaches, because normally where they come from, are they defensive or offensive guy, right? Like a guy like Peterson in Philadelphia is an offensive guy. What's their 4-3-1 to the over? So. Maybe something I'll just rescan there when I go back. Chicago, Nagy, offensive guy, 5-3 straight up, 5-3 against the number, 3-5. Man, this Chicago team, if they can ever get consistent on offense, they'd be a good football team.
Yeah, they're a playoff caliber defense, but they have the look of a 5-11 type team on offense. So. If I'm wondering when they're going to make that switch to Trubisky. I think it's coming, especially if they lose another game here. I think you make the move then, Ron.
Wow, but you do that move, and I think that's the move that gets Nagy out of town, because now you're you're flip flopping, right?
You're all over the place. You know what I mean? You sign Foles for a ton of money in the off season. Okay, you don't opt to exercise the 5th year of Trubisky's rookie contract, which means his time. You got to think that if you don't exercise the 5th year of the rookie contract, you're either going to say, look, we'd like to have you aboard, but we're going to sign you dirt cheap. If you want to look elsewhere, fine. Foles, you got money invested in him. Right now, he doesn't. Again, I was a Foles guy. I said they needed to do this, but now I'm saying maybe they should go to Trubisky just because of the fact, Ron. One factor, you can't protect the passer. You have no running game. It's only going to be to your benefit if you bring in a guy who, at least, like I said yesterday, they can extend plays with his mobility and on occasion take off and move the chains, okay? Because if you look at the passing numbers between these two guys, they're pretty similar. So why not give yourself another option on an offense at this point? Talk about flip-flopping. I've done that. But, I'm not afraid to say I was wrong, too.
Yeah, and the thing with, Foles, he came out, was it last week before or after a game, saying some of the play calling, I wouldn't
that was ridiculous, Ron. As a coach, how do you take that? He
Yeah.
is exactly what he said is to one of the Monday night guys. I believe it was Brian Greasy, that he says, I'm getting calls for pass plays that I need max protection on for them to develop downfield. In other words, slow developing plays you need a lot of time for on vertical throws sometime. And he goes, I know right off the bat the play's not going to work because I'm not going to get the protection required to let the play develop. So, I mean, if he felt that way, that was the most ignorant statement he could have ever made. Now you just threw your coach under the bus. And you know, I can't help but think that Nagy's got that in the back of his mind. He didn't want to make a knee-jerk reaction because it would have been obvious to the public. But at some point, he's going to make a move here.
Yeah, he's got to give up the play calling and just stick to head coaching.
Yeah.
Detroit 3-4 against the number, 4-3, so a bit of balance right there. Detroit moving forward, it's they got to stay healthy with was it Galloway?
Yeah, Galladay. Yes.
Galladay. Sorry.
Yeah.
You need that deep threat. Because we saw this weekend, as soon as he left the game, every passing was dink and dunk 20 yards. And, Peterson's like, I don't know. I wouldn't go as far as Frank Gore type situation, but, the age is there, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's been an ongoing issue in Detroit for how long? They can't establish a running game, too reliant on the passing game. The good news, Ron, the Lions are 3-0 on the road, 3-1 on the road. I'm sorry. The bad news is they're 0-3 at home.
Yeah. And they got Thanksgiving coming.
Exactly.
Hey, we know they're always there for Thanksgiving. Carolina 3-5, 4-4, 3-4-1. Carolina, again, a little bit inconsistent, on a 3-game losing streak right now. And tough division. You're playing, the Tampa Bay, you're playing New Orleans Saints, and Matt Rule, hey, he's done all right, his first year.
I think he's going to be a great coach. I do. Here's the thing. Christian McCaffrey is now listed as questionable this week. I think that's going to go a long way in helping them out offensively. I think the teams have caught up to him and they got enough film on him that they're not scared of the Carolina running game right now. And after that successful, surprising 3-2 start, they've dropped 3 in a row. So we'll see if the addition of McCaffrey, if indeed he plays Sunday, Ron, could help in stopping the bleeding there.
Yeah. New Orleans 5-2 straight up, 2-5 against the number, and 7-0. I remember I mentioned, I said New Orleans, they win games, but they don't cover.
And they surely go over though.
Yeah, they're like Seattle, right? Put the Seattle and them together, you got a great 7-on-7 team.
Yeah.
Hey, Drew Brees, you're gonna have to throw over 20 yards at one point, because just the coaches in this league, they know, and they game plan for it. And you take away Alvin Kamara in that lineup, man, they're hurting.
Yeah, and they had traditionally been a very good road team over the last 2 years. They're still not bad. I think it's just a matter of what we said, Ron, that they're not as good as they've been in years past, and they've been the beneficiary when setting a line of a brand name, right? So I think they've been overvalued, and I do believe, Ron, they're going to continue to be overvalued, and you should look to for a reason to fade them, especially as a favorite of something like 6 or greater.
Why do I get the sense that Michael Thomas, there's something there that no one's telling us, right?
Yeah, exactly, Ron. I agree with you, buddy.
Yeah, I just think that there's an issue there that they're keeping in house, which they should. But there comes a point where it's like, okay, guys, you're gonna have to either trade him or play him. Right?
Yeah, well, it certainly raises a red flag when you sit him down for disciplinary reasons because he punched one of your teammates in a practice session. That happens a lot in the NFL. But for them to take their star wide receiver, a guy who caught over 100 balls last year, and tell him you're not going to play, that's unacceptable. And then, like you said, Ron, a calf injury, a this, that, or the other thing injury that's kept him sidelined. You got to wonder how hurt he really is, and exactly what you just said. there seems to be a hidden agenda there when it comes to Michael Thomas right now.
Yeah. Tampa Bay 6-2, but only 4-3-1 against the number, 5-3. And that's because 4-3 is because they're going to be overvalued in every game going forward.
Yeah.
It's you want quality, you got to pay for it, right? And that's exactly I think and you got to expect Tampa Bay to always be like they weren't on their A game on Monday night, and they won, but you didn't get the cover. And
well,
that's
it shows that they're a really good team, though, right, Ron? From experience, when a team is there for the taking and they find a way to win, against I want a better than 1-7 Giants team, I could say at this point, Ron. I've seen a lot worse 1-7 teams than the Giants are right now.
Yeah, 2-6 for the Falcons, 3-5-0, 4-4-0. Obviously Dan Quinn gone. It's another situation here with you got the weapons on offense. The 4-4 record to over under. You look at some of these scores, giving up 38, 40 to Dallas, 30 to the Bears, 30 to the Packers. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that they need help on defense. Yeah,
it's certainly so, because their offense is definitely playoff caliber, Ron. With Matt Ryan and those trio of wide receivers, they have a pretty good running game led by Todd Gurley. So this is a team, again, one of the three teams I mentioned yesterday that no lead is safe. How many games have they blown this year with double-digit leads?
The Rams 5-3, 4-4 against the number, but 2-6 to the under. I'm starting to see a little bit of a trend on these type of teams, like the Rams, teams that are winning records but have an under record. Like you look at Tampa Bay, 6-2 but 5-3 to the over. New Orleans 5-2, 7-0. Whenever I see a team that has a winning record but an under record, to me, I start thinking playoff type team and how they're going to do in the playoffs, right?
Yeah, well, they got the defense. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And the offense is there, Ron. It's just like you said with Jared Goff. I mean, he typifies that whole offense. They look so good one week, right, Ron? The way they did on a couple of occasions this year, and then they follow it up with an effort like they did against Miami. Now, having said that, they had over 400 yards offense last week. They turned the ball over 4 times.
Well, I'm just trying to see.
I can always tell when your mind is elsewhere.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just trying to get.
When you give me one of those, okay, whoa.
No, but sorry about that.
I'm going to give you a quiz. What did I say just now?
Something about the over. Yeah, sorry, but I was trying to get, because we were talking about the Rams and the playoff type game.
I'm breaking your hump.
Yeah, I know you are. I wanted to get the Super Bowl record, the odds on a team, for Super Bowl numbers, right? Because I think the Rams, I'd like to see what their Super Bowl price is right now, with the under at 2-6. Are they a team you want to buy a futures ticket on for the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I mean, the offense is there on paper. It's just been erratic, and their defense is, led by Aaron Donald. They could stop anybody.
Yeah. And this is what I'm saying. Like, if I can find a line where they get some Super Bowl numbers, I would love to see what the NFL, the Rams are right now at.
Yeah, you're going to get a pretty good value right now at 5-3. You know what I mean? So.
Sorry about that, buddy. I just had once I get that on my mind, I'm on a mission.
That's okay. No problem, buddy. I know the way you are.
Yeah. Oh, we're multitasking, right? I forget my name sometimes.
Yeah, you're gonna say not listening to what your partner's saying.
6-1 straight up for Seattle. 5-2 against the number. 5-2 to the over. Again, see, this is what I'm saying. Teams with winning record, but with the over, if you were to say who looks like a better Super Bowl team right now, Seattle or the Rams?
No, I definitely take the Rams. You're right.
Yeah, and this is what I'm saying. Like, if I can find a friggin' site with those numbers, I'd love to see exactly.
You're not going to win a Super Bowl with the kind of defense that Seattle plays. It's, again, they allowed over 300 yards passing last week. They had a good first half defensively, and then Nick Mullen comes in as a backup quarterback and throws for 238 yards in less than half a game against them last week. So, again, until they show me the ability to stop the pass, I will say this. I'm really looking. I think that Buffalo and Seattle game this week is going to be a real entertaining game to watch, and we're going to discuss that on Friday.
Yeah, let's take a look at who they played. Okay, so they played the Dolphins. That was a 31-23. I'm just looking at teams with good defense. Well, Arizona's a good defense, 37-34, and the Niners. Yeah, so
their offense isn't a problem. Right? Their offense is going to move the ball on everybody.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, they're averaging 34 points a game. That's not a fluke at this point. The problem is, again, is when Russell Wilson has an off game like he did in the second half against Arizona, are you going to be able to get enough stops to win the game? You know, you can't continue. Look at the final scores of these games: 37-27, 37-34, 27-26, 31-23. They're giving up a lot of points. They've given up 30 or more points how many times this year?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. Yeah, I mean, again, look, all you got to do is look at their defensive numbers. They're giving up like 359 yards a game passing per game. You know, you just can't continue to do that and win at the rate they're winning at right now.
Yeah, and the head scratcher is, how did New England score 30 on them, right?
Yeah, well, there you go. Cam Newton, we've all witnessed how he struggled in the passing game this year. He throws for 397 against Seattle. You don't think their defense their pass defense is a problem? Think again.
Yeah, San Fran 4-4. Yeah, 4-4, 4-4. This should be 4-4 too, because that's the kind of season they're having, right?
Yeah.
They're up and down. Bad luck with the injuries. Great young coach. Now he had a great game plan against New England. But you can't go to a gunfight with a slingshot, and that's what he's got right now, a slingshot.
Right, and now they're they lose Jimmy Garoppolo and George Kittle for the year, last Sunday. And now you get 3 less days of rest, and you got to face Green Bay on Thursday night or tomorrow night. So,
you
know what? Good luck with that is right. I mean, I wouldn't count them out against the spread just yet, but that's going to be a tough game for them to win.
Yeah. Arizona 5-2, and then 1-5-1 to the under. You know what? Arizona, again, I'd like to maybe tomorrow or Friday. I'll have the Super Bowl prop odds on Friday, because teams with winning records with under records on the season, I'm really interested to see. Is Arizona a sleeper type team that you would take a shot on?
I think Arizona gets a lot of attention because of Kyle Murray offensively, but I think they're a lot better team defensively than people realize. Now they did give up a chunk of yards, over 500 yards against Seattle, but Seattle moves the ball on everybody.
Yeah. Kansas City 7-1. I heard. I know. I heard you. I heard you there. They move the ball on everybody. That I got.
Oh, I love you, man.
I know. It's like the odd couple here. 2-5. But I'm looking for like unders again, right?
Yeah.
The Chicago Bears 5-3, and then I saw they have an under record. What else here? 3-5. Kansas City. So not many teams with a winning record and an unders record. So yeah, we're Chicago 4. Where did I see it?
You got to equate that to Ron. Most winning teams are pretty good defensively, you would think, right? Where losing teams normally that's their deficiency. Is their defense.
Yeah. But okay.
No,
I just know where to go with that.
No, that's okay. I mean, it's just that might not prove to be the case when you look inside the numbers like you're going to, but it certainly seems like solid logic anyway.
Yeah, at the end of the day, balance, to me, it's all about balance. You got to have a good balance of offense, good balance on defense, and special teams. You got to be consistent with your special teams. Whenever I see a special team or teams get a block punt or a block field goal in the NFL, that should not happen in the NFL.
Right. Right. Having said that, with your balance, it makes your Rams suggestion even more solid, because they do have balance. It's just a matter of getting more consistent on offense rather than on defense.
Yeah. And the Rams, a good young coach, they've been there. And that division, they can have that division now if they want it.
Yeah.
They just, the Seattle, they have to go through Seattle, and the Niners and in Arizona. But yeah, it's going to be a good second half. Man, my brain is just all these numbers there about right.
Yeah, no, it's a lot to absorb. That's why you're hoping if I don't see something you do, and if you don't see something I do, that's what makes the show great. So
Yeah, and
we both have handicapping principles that are a lot the same, but we do have different perspectives, and that's okay. That doesn't mean one guy's wrong and the other guy's right. This is what happens in this industry too much, folks.
Yeah.
Is guys aren't willing to network with each other, share ideas, because two brilliant minds are a hell of a lot better than one.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, I wish we would see more of this on the internet, but we're filled with a bunch of high egos in this industry right now, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah, and maybe for the audience this is probably boring for them, but this is for us. It's homework, and going through, like I always say, after a Monday Night Football Tuesday, I need to do like a brain dump to relax and just you need that. You need to take
Absolutely,
that break.
Ron. Absolutely.
And then Wednesday you get back at it, and then doing these type of sessions like we've done the last 2 days. It's a refresher. It's like doing your homework for that big exam on Sunday. And what I got out of our session here today, teams like Tennessee, you better hope if you're playing Tennessee, you better hope they get a good lead early.
Yeah,
because,
exactly.
And this is what I want people, hopefully they get out of this type of thing that we do each and every day. We break down the teams. We look at the over-under records. Again, and when we do these things, my mind gets going. Yeah, I do get sidetracked.
Again, I'm teasing you because in your defense, people got to realize hosting a show as opposed to what I'm doing. I'm a co-host in I guess by definition, but Ron's taking on a lot of the onus and responsibility of directing the show. You know what I mean? So if he's looks like he's not paying attention to what I'm saying, no, he's just looking at what we're going to talk about next.
Yeah,
so,
set the table type thing, right?
He's got a more difficult job than I do.
Yeah,
is what I'm trying to say.
I like to say I'm just teeing up your ball here for you, buddy.
No, and you do a great job. But we tease each other all the time. It's all part of it. We're real people too, guys.
Absolutely.
And we're not going to win every week. Look, if you're looking for a free pick whorehouse here, we're not that. You know what I mean? We're not a bunch of guys giving out free picks. What we hope to do, and like I've said on numerous occasions, and I know a lot of times I can't speak for Ron, but this is one of those exceptions to the rule, that we want to make you a smarter sports bettor than you were the day before. And that includes if you watch every day. Now, we've been getting some negative feedback on our live shows of guys who are a couple of gentlemen who are if you want to call them that, attacking us when we have a bad week. Bad weeks are going to happen, okay? And if you just bought and you want to judge a specific handicapper that's been doing this for a while and operating with professionalism and integrity like myself or Ron does and has been for the last 20 years, and you're basing it on a short sample size, you're never going to win, because you're going to be jumping from handicapper to handicapper, and by trying to discourage other people from dealing with us, you're fighting an uphill battle that you're not going to win. That crusade has happened many times with us, and it doesn't affect us, is what I'm trying to say, Ron. We're professionals.
Yep. Absolutely. So, it's like a stockbroker giving stock
look,
tips, right?
Ron, it's okay if viewers / listeners don't agree with our opinions, or say, geez, I really thought that was a bad pick last week. Okay. We're okay with that. But when you start hitting below the belt, and you guys are terrible, and I got one example of a guy who bought from me last week. We had to shut him off yesterday. And, the bottom line is this guy's taking my picks that he's paid for and telling everybody online what I have. Now you're getting into taking money out of my pocket. That ain't going to work.
Yeah, you
So,
can't take food off our plate type thing.
yeah,
right?
I mean, look, there's a lot of bad guys in our industry, Ron, and you know that as well as I do. And I'm sure the customers and listeners and viewers out there who have ever dealt with a sports service have experienced that at one time or another. We can't do anything about that. All we could do is be accountable for ourselves. And we're giving you our best effort. This show should show you how in depth that we have, that we look into these games and try to give you our best. When you buy from us, you're not buying from somebody who's throwing darts against the wall because he just wants to be a phone salesman. Okay, we don't make cold calls. Our business all comes from people who respect our ability to pick winners over the long haul.
Yeah,
Now that I'm done
exactly.
with that, Ron, back to you, Ron.
Shake that fist, Ron. Hey.
Yeah.
Kelvin Johnson says, good info today, guys. I will evaluate the way I look at the games this weekend. And that's exactly
all we
what
ask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kelvin. Yeah. And the same thing, guys. Again, Ross, people who are interested in our top plays this weekend, college football, NFL, they'll be locked and loaded inside the members area this weekend. And if people want to get in touch with you, they can do it through rbwins.com, right?
Yeah, they can go to rbwins.com. Right now, I'm not set up to sell daily packages at Ron's site, just subscriptions. And I appreciate all of you who have bought there. But if you are just looking to dabble in once in a while, don't want to play every day, I do offer my daily packages Monday through Sunday at rbwins.com. If you're looking at wanting to tailor a package like specifically to the NFL or college football or whatever the case may be, I could do that for you. You can call me direct 781-571-0299. That's 781-571-0299. I accept all major credit cards. Ron, I don't employ, nor have I employed salespeople for a very long time because they don't represent me in the way I'd like to be represented. So you're going to deal with me and me only, no salespeople. And it'll be straight and to the point. Anyway, back to you, Ron.
Yeah, same thing. If people want to try out the Rain Report, we have a free Rain Report tip sheet. Go to our website, go to all the sports on the pull-down menu on top, and click NFL, college football. Go to the free Rain Report. A lot of good information right there. And if you're interested in our top plays, you can get them at our website. All right, he's Ross Benjamin. I'm Ron Raymond. This was the Rain Report for a Wednesday, Hump Day, November 4th. Hopefully you guys have yourself a great rest of your day. As always, shop for value, play those percentages. We'll see you back shortly with another Rain Report.